So today we're going to be doing our monthly market update video as it relates to real estate here in Bend and Central Oregon. We're already in quarter three. It's pretty crazy to think that we're already through 6 months of the year. But what's really going on in the real estate market, especially in the summer, typically the busiest time of year for transactional volume, is very, very compelling. We're going to be discussing what this data looks like as it was just released yesterday and what it really means moving forward into the later stages of the summer as well as the early part of fall. Because after all, a lot of you guys are preparing for some sort of transaction as it relates to real estate here in Central Oregon, whether you're selling, whether you're buying, whether you're doing a combination of the two. It's best to keep your finger on the pulse of the market in preparation for that moment in which you jump into the market. I will say about the data for this month is that we saw something happen in June of 2025 that hasn't happened since June of 2021. We'll be getting into that in just a second. So, if a video like this sounds like it could be of service to you, the monthly market update video for July of 2025, stick around. We're jumping into it right now. Okay, so we've got our Beacon report up here. It's our monthly data sheet locally here in the Central Oregon area that compiles all of our residential real estate data. July of 2025 here, you can see it's the latest edition of this document. If you've been on this channel before and you've seen a video like this, you know what we're about to dig into, the metrics that really tell us what's going on in the local real estate market. Now, what is interesting and what I alluded to in the beginning of the video was that we haven't seen something like this in 4 years. $693,000 is now our current median home value for a single family residence in the Bend area. If you look back at the previous Junes over the last couple of years, what you see are high numbers, high valuations in the high sevens for a median family home price. And that goes all the way back through 2022. So we'd have to scale back all the way to 2021 until the last time that we saw a median home price in Bend for the month of June be under $700,000. So what that tells us is that the mounting interest rates at 7% is just starting to take its toll. And it's ultimately becoming something that is affecting Bend now, where prices are trending down and they've been trending down for a little while. So if you are in the market as a buyer and you've played that patience game, it could be serving you very, very well. If you're a seller, yes, you might be getting a little bit frustrated based off of what's going on in the current state of the market. If we looked at kind of a macroscape of what's going on too, there is mounting pressure too from El Presidente to try and cut rates and really make something drastic happen to shift the market in the other direction. He's calling for something as extreme as 300 basis points for a single cut over the next couple of months. Now, that's not going to happen. That's very far-fetched, but it would be the largest single Fed rate cut in the history of America if that ever did happen. You can see here the current largest was a 100 basis point cut back in March of 2020. You remember what that did to the market. That sent shockwaves through our market back in 2020. And that's what really propelled that crazy real estate boom that we've experienced over the last 3 or 4 years. Now, if 300 basis points were to happen, that would absolutely send shockwaves through the market. And that's not going to happen. But what we can expect to have happen is that rate cuts are going to be coming towards the latter part of the year. That is the narrative that has been really driven home over the last couple of months. And now even our president is getting a little bit stressed out, I'd say, as rates have not really gone the direction that he wants them to go. So will they happen? Probably, but we just don't know when. Again, we don't have a crystal ball, but what we can do is just assess the market locally based off of the information that we have. And so with 693,000 as a median home price right now, is that trend going to continue down? Will buyers remain patient? There are transactions happening in Bend, and that is another very interesting metric is if we scroll down here and look at the total number of sales that we had in the last month, well, we had a pretty high number, okay? The highest number of total sales and closings in Bend since April of 2024. Okay, so we had 166 transactions last month. So we are still doing volume. And I think a lot of people that are in the market right now are coming to grips with the trend that things are kind of scaling down a little bit. Will that trend continue? I don't know. We will just have to wait and see what really happens. All we can do is read the data and then make our decisions based off of the information that we're given. So, median days on market is 24. That's still kind of a low tier number. You can see if we go back 6 months or so, we were in the 40s and 50s for median days on market. That had a lot to do with the seasonality of the market, but now we're in more of the high volume transactional period of the year. And so homes tend to sit a little bit less on the market, but there are plenty of homes where they've been sitting for 50, 60, 70 days, even more, even over 100 days. And that's just because maybe those sellers are stubborn and they have a certain number that they've tied themselves to that they are just compelled to try and get, and they're not going to reduce the price of their home. So maybe their home sells, maybe it won't, as a result of the way they are operating. Now, we scroll down to another very key metric, and that is our inventory. That's been a very big theme of the Bend and Central Oregon market for the last several months. And if you see here, this whole chart goes back 36 months. And I've talked about it on previous market update videos where our inventory has been a month or less. This little line here would be trending down if we were to scale back beyond 36 months, but we had a period of time where 1 month or less was kind of the norm, and then we got into, say, 2 months or less. That was a very, very normal figure for several years. And now we're kind of broken out of that, and we're more in a balanced market state of inventory of 5 months now for the second month in a row. More homes are on the market. That means sellers have more competition to deal with. That means when they do get buyers that are interested in their home, they need to work hard to try and make that deal happen because those buyers are few and far between right now. They're there. They're waiting on the sidelines. They're waiting for rates to come down. That's been a big theme for buyers for a long time. So if a buyer is in the market, and they are, we just saw we closed 166 homes last month. So buyers are here and they are transacting on real estate. Those buyers might be getting themselves a discount. They might be getting a deal on a home if they choose to be in the market right now while their rates are relatively high. Will the rates come down to 6%, 5%? I don't know, maybe. At some point they probably will, but when that day comes, we don't know. And when that day does come, you can bet that prices of homes might stabilize as opposed to trending down, or they might even start to tick up again. So, all very interesting key metrics. If you're interested in learning more about the situation that you're in, particularly, and you want to chat with us, you can reach out to us. We've got our contact information all over the channel here. So, just give us a call or send us a text message. That will get the ball rolling so then we can continue that conversation to figure out what the next course of action for you should be. Now, let's get into Redmond. Redmond is a very interesting market as well. Now, Redmond has been very steady and steadfast, over $500,000 for basically the last 36 months. You can see the chart here. Sure, it dips down underneath $500,000 for periods of time, but ultimately speaking, the median home price in Redmond has been over 500,000 for the last 36 months, and this is no exception. This month we're at 530,000, and again, the all-time high for Redmond is 562,000. So the price of a median home in Redmond has been very, very close to its all-time high for a consistent period of time. This is one of the closest months in which Bend and Redmond have been kind of tied to each other in some time, with 530,000 for Redmond and 693 for Bend. So is Redmond closing the gap on Bend? I'd say not necessarily. Again, I've always talked about how the median home value from month to month can fluctuate and have wide varying swings. And we could see a big uptick next month in Bend for all we know. But the data is compelling. 58 sales in Redmond last month. That's pretty normal, pretty on par for this time of year. Again, Redmond is about 40,000 people. Bend's about 110,000 people. So you have to expect the volume of transactions is going to be significantly higher in Bend than in Redmond. Days on market is 20. So relatively consistent with Bend. When homes come onto market, they get a little bit of action immediately, especially if they're in a good location and they're a very well kept home. It's going to get attention immediately. Sometimes, if they're overpriced, they will tend to sit then, and then the magic kind of wears off, and they'll just have to brave the elements of the market, and potentially they'll get an offer from a buyer that comes along later on down the road. But if they are priced appropriately, you can still expect homes to move relatively quickly in markets like Bend and Central Oregon just because of our location and just the sheer desire for people from bigger metropolitan areas to relocate to a smaller market like Bend or Redmond because we are in such a great location. It's easy to get to Seattle, it's easy to get to Portland, it's easy to get to California for those people that do work remote or would prefer to just otherwise relocate to a smaller market and still have access to their primary cities uh, with a short flight from our airport here. Now, month of inventory is back to 3 months for the second month in a row. So not quite as much as in Bend, but 3 months has been higher than normal over the last 36 months. Again, this line here is similar to Ben's if you scale back into the year of 2022 and go back further into 21 as well as 2020. And that's when we had inventory of 1 month or less for a significant period of time. All very interesting metrics here. So we'll continue to scroll down and take a look at some of the smaller markets in the Central Oregon area because a lot of people are curious about Sisters. They're curious about Sun River, Lapine, as well as Madras and Prineville. And Sisters, okay, $679,000 for a median priced home last month with 14 total sales, 47 days on market with 5 months of inventory. That's higher than typical inventory for Sisters. So it's starting to mount for Sisters as well. Sun River 869, 11 sales. Okay, that's a high volume of sales for the metropolitan area, the small community of Sun River on a month-to-month basis. Days on market's 18, 9 months of inventory. So a lot of people are trying to sell their home in Sun River right now. And then Lapine 390, days on market's 13. Oh, total sales is 13, days on market 76, and then we had 7 months of inventory. Madras 360,000. That's going to be Jefferson County, but the primary body of population live in Madras in Jefferson County. So that's what we refer to when we talk about Jefferson County, 360,000, 18 sales, 54 days on market with 5 months. And then you have Crook County, which is primarily going to be Prineville, 400,000, 26 total sales, 27 days on market, and 5 months of inventory. And so Jefferson County and Crook County are similar in terms of their bodies of population. They're about 12,000 people each in those two respective towns. And then the counties have a few thousand additional people scattered throughout those counties. Now, Bend is going to be obviously the primary destination that people focus on when it comes to what's going on in the local Central Oregon real estate market. But are we going to see a shift here as we get further into Q3 and then eventually into Q4 of 2025? Kind of feels like we're trending that way right now. I think the odds of having some Fed rate cuts are increasing as we go further into the summer and into the early fall. Will we see 300 basis points in a single cut? No, there's just no way. But I think from a macroscape, our president is trying to set a expectation of cutting rates consistently, not just once, but multiple times to try and get things going within the economy and maybe get a little bit more action, a little bit more volume going on in that regard. So we'll see what happens. But this is going to be our monthly update as it relates to the local real estate market. If you're in the market right now, if you're looking to purchase, this could be a good time. It's always a good time when there's less people that you're competing for homes with. If you were buying a home 4 years ago, you probably remember the stress and anxiety that you experienced as a result of being in the market because you were competing with so many other buyers. Now sellers are kind of in that same boat that buyers were 4 years ago, where they're listing their home, maybe because they have to, not because they just want to, but because they have to do a transaction. A lot of people waited all throughout 2024, expecting 2025 to have a shift in the market. Well, we haven't had that shift quite yet. Will we have that here by the end of the year? We might, but we'll just have to wait and see how things play out. My name is Ryan. I'm a licensed broker with eXp Realty here in the state of Oregon. I thank you for watching videos like this because these are the types of videos that really tell you what's going on behind the scenes in the market. If you're in the market and it's time for you to reach out, please reach out. Just have a conversation with us. You can call us, you can text us. We'd love to talk to you about your real estate needs to see if we'd be a good fit and to see if we could help you with that transaction when that time comes. Thank you again for watching, and we will just see you on the next video.